Welcome, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back once again on a beautiful Thursday afternoon like this one, still enjoying the World Cup. Obviously, the first match has ended in obviously another stalemate for Denmark. But obviously for Denmark, well, this stalemate only simply means that now they have got 4 points. For Australia, they only have 1. So now Australia needs to win the last match if they are to make it through to the last 16 of this year's World Cup tournament. Eriksson was on target for, obviously, Denmark as he scored a very, very interesting and, of course, spectacular goal as well before the penalty that was awarded to Australia. And, of course, the next match coming up is between France and, of course, Peru, another team in Group C as well of the tournament. That is going to be another exciting game that you cannot afford to miss out. At the local level, the under-17 today managed to beat Young Arrows by 8-1 as they continue their preparations ahead of the COSAFA Youth Championship tournament, of which they are the defending champions getting into this tournament. And Zambia, apparently, is in Group B, together with South Africa. And of course the under-20 are prepping up for the crash of the Titans as they'll be meeting Burundi in the last qualifiers games ahead of the Africa Cup of Nations at under-20 level. And of course they will be having a date again. They will be having a date with Malawi in an international friendly match as well. So those are some of the issues that we're going to look at. And of course, Zambia's male volleyball team has made it to the semi-finals of the Kuksa Games in Botswana after they managed to beat Lesotho by 3-1 as well. An interesting victory, hoping for the best, especially that Slim has joined them. And of course, he is a part of the team as well. One of the dependables in as far as Zambia volleyball team, male team, is concerned. We missed Agrives on Thursday, but on Tuesday, but he's with us today. Good to have you. I know the weather really did you so bad. I don't know how your trip to Russia was. I told you anyway. I did warn you that Russia is pretty cold, so you need to cover yourself up so well. But you couldn't believe me.
Well, you know, it's a World Cup. You need to take risks at the end of the day, and you know you can never enjoy any fun without taking any risk. So from the risk that you take, there is more fun.
There is more fun.
Exactly.
Interesting. So far, looking at the direction the World Cup is taking, is it according to the way you predicted that this is how the World Cup would be, especially as we get into the second matches?
Not really. I think this World Cup so far, you know, from the group stages, the first games of the group stages, we have seen an improvement in terms of these small teams. I think they have accounted themselves very well. You know, they have shown us that they went there to compete, not just to add up numbers,
share points,
not to add up numbers, but to compete at the highest level of competition. Look at Iran, the way they are playing, the way they gave the tough run for Spain yesterday. I think these are some of the small teams that you wouldn't expect it to perform like the way
how I wish Saudi Arabia could have just done more against Russia, the way they did against Uruguay. I think Saudi Arabia, I don't know what happened when they took on Russia, but when you see Saudi Arabia as they took on Uruguay, it was a different Saudi Arabia altogether.
Well, even when they played against Russia in the first game, I think you could see some good movement, some good flashes. The only problem with Saudi Arabia, I think they are lacking someone who can get them goals up front. In terms of field play, they are well coordinated. Play possessions, they are on top of everything in both games that they have played, but what they are lacking goals. They are lacking goals in their setup. I think that's the area that they need to manage. That's the area that they need to look at in the coming engagements.
All right, so yesterday's fixtures, we had Morocco 0, Portugal 1. Cristiano Ronaldo scoring in the first 5 minutes of the game, just as he did against Spain. So he's got 4 goals as we speak. And of course, the second game was between Uruguay and Saudi Arabia. Uruguay edging Saudi Arabia by 1-0. Luis Suarez was on target in the first 30 minutes of the game, and of course, lastly, Diego Costa made sure that he serves Spain as he scored his third goal of the tournament as Spain beat Iran by 1-0. Today, earlier, the first match was between Denmark and Australia, and of course, Denmark shared points with Australia. It was Denmark 1, and of course, Australia 1. Australia, I was impressed with the kind of position I think they had in that particular encounter, especially the second half. I think they played quite well, managed to dominate the match. But as we always expect, from teams that have got less experience, especially in tournaments like this, scoring just proved to be a very difficult task for Australia. Created quite a number of chances, but could not convert them into straight goals.
We created, quite a number of chances. But when you look at the Australia's game, it's mostly in the midfield.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you find players that you can relate, you can recognize, and players that wherever they are playing, you can see the impact that they put into the game. Look at their captain, Mario Ednak.
Mm-hmm.
He has been an excellent player, the previous season with Crystal Palace. Aaron Moy with Brighton Hove. These are players that you watch week in, week out. So it becomes a big problem when it comes to up front. How I wish they could at some point take a risk. You use their legendary striker, Ken, who can Cahill. Cahill, who can give them at least. He can give them experience as well as the know-hows of playing up front. Some of these youngsters that they are bringing, there's too much pressure, from them to them. It's their first time, and at the biggest stage of the world, you expect to perform. At the end of the day, nerves gets to your head, and you give a bad service to your team.
You give a bad service to your team. So far as things stand, two teams have confirmed out of the tournament. Morocco and Egypt are out of the tournament after losing back-to-back. Egypt lost the opening game, and of course also lost the opening game to Uruguay and lost to Russia as well by 3-1. Morocco, same. They lost to Iran by 1-0 and came again to lose to Portugal. So two teams have been confirmed qualified into the last 16 of the tournament, and of course two have been eliminated. Russia and of course Uruguay are already in the last 16, and of course Morocco and Portugal, Morocco and obviously Morocco and of course Egypt are confirmed out of the tournament. So we're yet to get to know more about other teams as we progress as well. Australia still needs the last game. We still need some mathematics, really. And, of course, others as well are still breathing. Now, up next is the game involving France and, of course, Peru. France will be getting into this game as favorites. But, obviously, looking at the last game that Peru played, I think they had a very good game as well. So, I don't expect France to have an easy encounter. Yes, it is a full squad as we speak. All their players who they need is available as we speak. Pogba is there, Fakir is there as well. Talk about the likes of all the top class players. N'Golo Kante is there, so they have a full squad. But I wouldn't really love to underestimate Peru, who lost in a dramatic way to Denmark.
Well, Peru they'll come into this game, trying to cause a heartbreak to France, but at the end of the day, it's about how France is going to account themselves, knowing that they are the favorite into this fixture, but they shouldn't underestimate the physicality of Peru. they do have the physical, presence. They do have the pace that, if used well, they can, cause an upset to France. But at the end of the day, I think I was looking at the the starting 11 for France. I think they have made about two changes. I think if he for me, they're positive in terms of when you look at what they have brought in. They have brought in Giroud in the squad, so that at least the first game that they played against Australia, yes, Griezmann is a dependable striker, but he's not good to stand in between the strikers. He always loves dropping into the mid and move forward. But when you are playing in a tournament like this, you need someone of the physicality of Giroud, someone who can stand in between the defenders and give pressure to the defenders, just like the way Diego Costa does it. And I think Giroud also have the same type of player, and I expect him to give a good service for him, for the trust that he has been given to start as a starting 11, as well as Boras Matuidi. He's one player that we always talk about, midfielders, box to box type midfielders, and he's one of those kind of a player who also have an eye of the goal. When given a chance, he can strike one or two and give a bigger boost to the up front, who would be Giroud as well as Griezmann, to see and whether they can, at the end of the day, they can get more than 2 goals that they got in the first game, and is of course help out in terms of defense, so that they can make sure that they keep a clean sheet at the end of the day.
Well, at the end of the day, all France needs is 3 points to make sure that they qualify for the semi-finals. But obviously, you expect it to be a very tough group if at all France today drops point, especially if Peru picks up maximum points. For example, if Peru wins, well, it's going to be a highly competitive group, because now we're going to have a situation where, we'll have France with 3 points, we'll have Peru with 3 points, and of course we'll have Denmark with 4, and of course we'll have Australia with 1. So it's going to be an open group altogether. And, I can imagine having an open group like that. Obviously, like I mentioned, I don't expect France to have this game quite easy. It might actually end into a draw, or they might even drop points. So now, what happens if at all it ends in a draw, or perhaps France loses this particular game?
Well, it means the final games of the group are the finals for each team. They have to play with everything that they will have at that particular moment, so that they can see themselves in the next round of the tournament. Remember that if the group goes into such a situation, it's you win it, you go through. You lose, you go home at the end of the day. So that's one thing that France really need to avoid, putting themselves in such a situation. At the end of the day, if anything, no matter how difficult it can be, at least they should get themselves a point out of this fixture, so that they sit together with Denmark with 4 points, and leave the rest with 1 each, so that the final games, they see how the permutations of the game can go, and whether they can manage to either gain a point against Denmark. Remember that the final game in the group stages, France will be taking Denmark, as well as Australia will be up against Peru. So it all goes with how you account yourself in the first 2 games. So if let's say, like you have said, let's take it for instance, Peru wins, France will remain with 3 points, as well as Denmark at 4, Australia 1. So it means that at the final stage, it will be who goes between France, Peru, as well as Denmark or even Australia. But Australia, the chances become slim because of the point margin. Whoever plays, Australia would want to get maximum points at the end of the day, which is Peru in the final game. So it can be very difficult for Australia to pass Peru if Peru was to win today, because of the physicality that they have, even the pace. Well, it's an African team on another continent.
If France is to win this particular game, where are they supposed to concentrate on?
If France were to win this particular game, in the last group game, I think they really need to look at who can be another replacement in the back four, in the central defenders, because there is a bit of miscommunication between Umtiti as well as Raphael in the defense. Look at the penalty that Umtiti gave in the first game against Australia. It was needless because there was someone, Varane was behind him. All what they needed to do is to communicate, talk to each other. Then you are able to give a good service to your country. But in this situation, there is lack of communication between the two. They don't know who is the main man in central defense, who is the last sweeper in the central defense. So they need to communicate in those lines. They don't have a leader in the line of defense. So they need to look at who else can we, if they were to win this one, in the final group stage, they didn't need to look at who else can we try out in this combination, so that in the quarterfinals we don't have the same elapses that we saw in the first game against Australia.
And of course, the final game will be between another crucial match, really, that I foresee to be a very crucial match. Croatia will be taking on Argentina. Lionel Messi will be taking on Luka Modric.
Well, yes, the captain against the captain. It's a good game for both teams, especially that Croatia had managed to win their first game, and Argentina failed to capitalize with Lionel Messi missing the penalty. It all goes with how the midfield operates, especially Modric as well as Rakitic in the area of helping out the defense, because that's where most Lionel Messi operates from. So if those two, especially Rakitic, would come with a notebook of how he sees Messi training and shares the knowledge with his teammate, I think it will be a very good game. It can even go for Croatia, because they do have the prolific players up front. They do have even on the right side, as well as Mandzukic, is one player that you wouldn't want to give either a half chance. He can even punish you. So Argentina, they do have names. You can name. I can list the whole squad. I have it on the back of my head. But at the end of the day, what fails them to take is combination. They are failing to combine. What I saw in the first game, the only player that knows how to give Messi a good pass is Mascherano, and he's not playing high. He's playing deep. He's a holding midfielder. So he's the only player that the moment when you see a pass from Mascherano to Messi, you can see a good moves from Messi, and it's all about how the opposite team aligns themselves to defend him. They always struggle, but in most cases you find that it takes Messi to draw deep, to come and collect the ball and try to push it up front. Yes, they do have the likes of Aguero, who can give you a goal at any given
that's where
angle.
that's where my that's where I'm surprised of, because at the end of the day, Argentina have got people who can get goals, and yet they fail to get goals. They've got Di Maria. Di Maria can create very good scoring opportunities because of his pace. So he can pull up a series of defenders towards the side so that the others can actually have can actually move freely. They have got Aguero, they have got Messi. Okay, just the three of these guys can actually cause a lot of confusion at the backside of their opponent. But why is there that a lack of coordination? Why is it that these are not ticking at national level?
It goes with the tactics of the opposite side, because when you look at the way like the first game that they played, Di Maria failed to take because the moment the opposite number defender was with him closely, he couldn't give him any chance of the moment the ball comes. The defender is the first one to touch the ball, so it makes the striker frustrated at the end of the day, lose confidence. It feels like his teammates are not giving the right passes, but it's difficult. On national level, you really need to work 120 percent. You need to bat 120% for you to take, because you need to if you cannot do it yourself, give it a service to your friend. You need to have that at the back of your mind. You don't need to always to think that, okay, I'm the star, I'm the one who is supposed to be doing this. You need to also to realize that we are 11 in this team. Let me give it to someone else. Let's see what the others can do at the end of the day, and you might find that he whom you gave it to delivers for the team.
I guess that's the approach that Argentina needs to take, especially that they're playing a team that is playing as a unit, a team that has got a very weird approach to every particular game that they are playing on. When you look at Croatia always, every time they're participating at a World Cup, there's only maybe one or two names that you can mention from a team, but the rest you'd find that they're names of players that you might know very little about, or players that you might not actually know about. But when you look at Argentina, you'd find that it has got notable players that can get goals. Let's see how they fare tonight as they take on Croatia in their second match. Remember, the first game Croatia did win after they beat Nigeria by 2-0, but it was a very, very sad day for Argentina as they dropped points against Iceland in a 1-0 draw game. And of course, tomorrow we expect Nigeria to be in action as well against a stubborn Iceland team as well before they get into their final round of matches as well. And of course, Neymar has been declared fit for Brazil for the next fixture as well. So he is fit, and of course, obviously, you might actually see him tick and of course play in the next game that Brazil would definitely need to win at all cost. For now, we take a break. We'll be back shortly.
Umfweni kuno banenga na ukwate ekitendwe kale n'okumonoko bati obushikuboobeta buli bwino buli bwalu bana olero lela fyati chuti afike pakuti winga tushako naye nshitaire monika taire enda yiminine pamopene urefu waiko kusenda ile itwa Stambo Pops uleke ikumfuishe wino mumatobo ikusansa mushe takwakabena umbi babugamu wakulangoyu Stambo Bubblegum Pops yalikwata umundo wendowe wakufikapo.
The relationship with the boys is still the same. It's still my brothers. It's just we will not maybe do music as Zone Fam together, but everything else remains the same.
Mampish is a musician. Have you seen? But these other guys, I'm sure I'm a Burira show. Maybe Vamdara Vanione and Quatiliwe.
And by the way, let me actually say to you that just because a woman has got a PhD or a degree doesn't mean that they're qualified to be a good wife.
I say, I'm half what? 1/2. I said, no. It should be something. What's your real name? I'm of Nika. You are of Nika. We'll be calling you of Nika.
Hi, my name is Machamanda. I bring to you the 169 on QTV, your number one show transcending all the imaginable barriers, discoveries, explodes, realities, and the dares all in one package, uncovering the beauty of your nature in the air, on a safari, on water. 169. Here we believe the style is the only real luxury really desirable. In the 169, we will take you there. Call us, we shall come there. The world is waiting. Catch me every Saturday at 6:30 p.m. Exclusive QTV.
All right, so welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Still talking about the World Cup and, of course, making reflections in terms of how the tournament has gone so far. 2 African teams have already confirmed out of the tournament, Morocco and, of course, Egypt, both from the northern side of Africa. Any lessons learned?
Well, it's sad, you know, that 2 African countries are already, you know, confirmed to be out of the tournament. You know, we have been hoping that at this stage that, you know, as Africa we have grown in this competition, and we have been hoping that, you know, we could see at least, if not all of the 5 teams that goes to represent us go into the next stage, into the quarterfinals, into the knockout stage. At least, you know, the 2 should do 2 or 3, mostly 3 at least, to make a half of, you know, the number that goes there. But you know, when you look at Egypt, they will be crying foul of, you know, maybe Mohamed Salah, because he didn't play the first game. He could have done something, but at the end of the day, it's about how you account yourselves on a day. They were given a date against, you know, Russia, where he played 90 minutes, but I think they collapsed in the second half. They played well in the first half, but in the second half, one would wonder what the coach told them. Because
that's what I was asking myself, because look at the time interval in between the 3 goals.
Exactly. One would wonder what the coach told them at halftime, you know, level, because when they came into the second half, they were a very different team altogether. They couldn't know how to mark. They couldn't know how to pass a ball. They were all over the pitch. You know, you couldn't have any you know, any positive move that, you know Egypt could have, you know, taken to say, okay, this is the moment that you have been waiting. Let's see what Egypt now can they come back from this. Unfortunately, it is 2-0. You are still hoping. I remember there was a moment that, you know, Salah was given. It was a free kick that he was given to you know, to say, okay, this is a moment that, you know, if this chance goes in, it revives Egypt, you know, to fight back. Well, 5 minutes later, a 3-0. So it's very disappointing. But at the end of the day, they would console themselves to say, okay, it's been, you know, years since they participated at the World Cup level. You know, it was a moment of them announcing that they are coming back to the, you know, to the limelight of football, even at CAF level. So we are yet to see whether they will continue at the same level with the same performances that, you know, they have shown for the past, you know, 2 years.
Let's get to Botswana, where, you know, Zambia is participating in the Kuxa Games, and of course, so far, the Zambia volleyball team, men's team, seem to be doing very fine as they beat Lesotho by 3-1, cruising into the semi-finals of this year's Kuxa Games. But for the ladies football team, well, it was a different story as they got beaten up by South Africa. Now, getting to the Kuxa Games, well, the volleyball team, men's team, is in the semi-finals, and of course some good news is that Slim has joined the team, and of course he's going to be featuring this evening as they take on South Africa in the semi-finals of the Coxa Games. Just your expectations.
Well, it's something that they need to put up with everything that they have so that we see them into the final. And hopefully, meeting the defending champion, the Botswana, who has been, dominant in the game of volleyball for quite some time. Even at zone 6 level, you can see that Botswana is always there. Even the teams that they take to zone 6, they are teams that whenever you face them, you have to feel them. If in most cases, we have been losing to Botswana, to be precise, and we're hoping that if Zambia could manage to go past South Africa, I think I'm saying Botswana against Zimbabwe, to see Botswana to win, so to say. I'm seeing Botswana to take the day and be in the final. So I'm hoping that the Zambian guys, the volleyball team, they can account themselves against South Africa, of which is not an easy opponent, South Africa. They have been always giving us, a lot of stress, a lot of, competition whenever we meet them. It's either we manage to carry the day or they carry the day. But in this encounter, I'll be patriotic at the end of the day. I'll be rallying behind the Zambian volleyball team and see them into the final.
We're here to see what John Funsani is going to do, just to mold the team together, put it together, and of course get them ready for this evening's encounter against South Africa. Obviously, he's been talking to his boys in terms of what kind of an attitude and psychological strength that they need to exhibit as they take on South Africa. Because, when you're playing a team that has an upper hand against you, there is always that, psychological effect that just trickles down to you. And every time that you hear their names, to make matters worse, every time that you see them, you begin shaking. But obviously, at this level where we've reached, it's a different level altogether. It's a different tournament altogether. So hopefully that they will be able to, to put all their, all their history aside and just look at South Africa just like any other team that they have beaten at this moment. Especially that now they have got a full squad. Slim joined them, and of course he's one of the main blockers that we have in Zambian volleyball sport. He's so good at blocking. He's so good at shooting as well. So hopefully that with him part of the team, they will be able to make sure that they dominate and perhaps win the tournament. Okay, so our hope rests in John Funsani and of course the male volleyball team as things stand for this year's Coxa Games in Botswana. And of course, moving on the show, we get to the under-20. Now, the under-20 have a date. Faz has managed to obviously get 2 friendly matches that they will be able to play, Zimbabwe and of course Malawi. And of course, the first friendly match that they will be able to play is obviously the team that you're able to see on your screen there. So Zambia will be playing Malawi at Nkoloma Stadium, and of course the tickets will be sold right there at the gate when the game is just about to start. And of course this is in preparation for next month's game against Burundi. Remember, we still have one more game to play before we can officially qualify to the Africa Cup of Nations Youth Championship tournament. And Zambia being the defending champions, they will be expected to qualify and perhaps defend the trophy that they won right here last year. Now, some good news is that obviously there has been an addition of players. For example, Edward Chilufya finally has been added to the team, and we might actually see him feature with his experience that he managed to get during last year's tournament. I'm sure he's going to be a player that most of us will be willing to see. So now, Edward Chilufya being part of the team, and of course looking at just the other team that we saw, that beat Rwanda. Any effect that he's going to have?
Well, he comes into the squad with a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge about this tournament at this level. He has been with the previous squad and the under 20, the the Fashion Sakara, the Patson Daka, the Solomon, Sakara led squad. He was with that squad where he played in nearly almost all the games. He played, and he accounted himself very well. He was amongst the top scorers of the squad. And coming into this squad, he comes with a lot of experience that we expect him to share with the young ones, with his colleagues at this level. They are on the same age, so to say, because at that time he was younger than the Patson Dakas, and we expect him to share the same knowledge with his colleagues, and hopefully it will be a good combination with Muya Maromo, because one thing that I saw he found difficult is he never had a player who could understand his game. He wanted, in most of the moves that he made, he loved 1-2 touches, 1-2 passes, but most of the players that he was playing against, the likes of Francesco Mwepo, at some point he could become selfish when he's given a ball. All what he's thinking is going straight to the goal without looking at the distance and who is available. So I think if Edward could come in with the experience that he has gained from the club that he is playing, and he could we could see a different ball game. We could see a different direction in terms of play, and or hopefully we'll see more goals in the coming encounter against Burundi. Because when you look at, I was looking just at the images of the Burundi under-20, they look huge. You need to be creative. You need to be as pacey as you can, to beat someone who is huge than you. At the end of the day, when such kind of a player plays a physical game, it becomes frustrating. Then you lose
are we
focus.
going to keep on? Are we going to keep on questioning the age range of our opponents?
It's not a matter of, it's not a matter of age.
If you remember very well, I think we had Nason Kokowe during the time that we played Rwanda. I think he did question the age range of the Burundians. He questioned them. He said, no, even before we play Burundi, we need to make sure that the Burundi we are playing, they are under 20.
It's for me, it's not a matter of questioning the age, age range, the age one is. You also need to look at the region one is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us, we were born small. No matter how much you would want me to look big, I'm just small as I look. So I can be as old as you want me to be, but I'll be looking small at the end of the day. So that's the difference. That's how different so we are. Someone can look as big as he can be, but he's young. There's nothing you can do about it. He's just young. So it's about, for me, it's about how that person uses that advantage, point of view that he has. That's the critical moment, because you if you have, I'll give an example. Look at George Chirufat, Sanako. The man is big, and in his play of football, he uses his physicality to defend. So if you want to beat him, you need to identify what he is lacking. It is space. So use space against him. Then you have your day on the game. But if you cannot use your mental strength and realize the weakness of your opponent, then you end up being frustrated on that particular day, and you cost your team. And that's what we need to avoid when we meet against Burundi.
All right, so obviously before the Burundi game, we have Malawi to play in a friendly match. Hopefully that Zambia will be able to relish this particular encounter. Remember that this year we are playing Malawi now twice. We had traveled to Lilongwe before we played Rwanda, and of course we beat Malawi courtesy of Francesco Mwepu goals. And now we're playing them again, and of course we're here to play Zimbabwe as well. Then from there,
what's the secret? Malawi.
exactly. I was wondering, when Faz was making a selection in terms of who we are going to approach for a friendly game. I was thinking maybe it could have been fair if we approached South Africa, or if we did approach any other game.
Well, maybe like the Zimbabwe one is much better.
Much better. But Malawi, in the space of 1 month, we play Malawi twice in a friendly game.
Well, yes, it's a training. It's a friendly. It's a training.
But I think we need more exposure.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you ask what value does this game will bring, knowing that you have already played these guys.
And you have already beaten them, so what is there remaining?
Exactly. Why shouldn't they go this side, Angola? You try Angola, you try Uganda, at least in the borders of Burundi. You see how you can manage the neighbors of Burundi, and see maybe you can learn one or two things. But keeping on eating at your neighbor's pot, it's not. It does not mean that the neighbor knows how to cook well.
All right, so that is just our appeal to Faz. Hopefully that in future endeavors, Faz should consider expanding the net a little wider, and of course get other teams that we haven't yet played with, I think, in preparation for such important games as well. And of course, lastly on the show today, the under-17 have got another task as well to handle. They will be defending the COSAFA Youth Championship that they won last year in December. In fact, in 2016, in December, they will be defending that particular tournament. And of course, they're getting into this tournament as defending champions. Now, maybe I'll just ask Hargreaves quickly to take us through some of the groups. We've got Group A, B, and C. Zambia is in Group B. What do we have in Group A?
In Group A, we have Mauritius, Botswana, Namibia, as well as Seychelles, Mauritius being the host of of the tournament. And we are looking forward to see how the new lads they will come. They will account themselves. Remember that it's always been difficult when it comes to to under 17 level, because at this level someone who's under 17 years of age is believed to be in a school. So it has always been difficult to find talent that you can outright point out, not until you can you go out the whole nation trying to identify, see how these zone games are being played in terms of school, how the academies that that we have seen this year. I think this year it has been fruitful in terms of academies. We have seen a lot of academies that have come on board, and it has quite made it easy. It's slightly easy in terms of in selecting the under 17 at the under 17 level, and hopefully one day we'll have under 15. In Group B, we have Zambia, being the defending champion, South Africa, Lesotho, as well as Mozambique. Then in Group C, we have Malawi, Angola, Swaziland, as well as Zimbabwe.
All right, so Zambia today managed to beat Young Arrows by 8-1 in their preparatory matches ahead of the group matches as well. So Zambia is in Group B, and they will be taking on the likes of South Africa, Mozambique, and so on and so forth. A very, very good litmus paper for them. I think it would test their credibility to defend the tournament. We have South Africa, who we played in the finals, who we beat. So we'll be looking at seeing what can we do this time around, especially that it's a different South African team altogether. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, that marks the end of the show today. Let us join you as we watch the game between France and, of course, Peru. See you in Kazan.